Hello, my name is Sadie.
Hi, I'm Maya, and today we are going to be speaking with you about someone whose name you might not recognize, but whose pictures you might.
This is Karen Ducey. She's a photojournalist and freelance media artist based in Seattle who's been working in the field for over 20 years. In her long career, she's photographed protests, marches, crabbing exhibitions off the coast of Alaska, and more. She does a lot of freelance work for the Los Angeles Times, and on her own time, she also works on personal passion projects. Karen stressed during our interview that her goal is always to capture the world as it appears. No photoshopping, no blurring, no color changing, no dramatic lighting. In her own words, I don't stage anything. I don't set anything up. I don't order people around. Simple enough.
One of the things that became clear to us in interviewing Karen is that she's very modest about the recognition that she has received. She said that she occasionally does video projects, but failed to mention that her documentary called One Fatal Shot was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize in 2008. It tells the extremely powerful story of a family dealing with the accidental death of a young boy at the hand of his 16-year-old brother. For the purpose of this assignment, we spoke with Karen about her extensive work during the last 13 months capturing vulnerable populations, specifically the elderly people and the Asian community in the time of COVID-19. In our interview, we spoke with her about some of the images that she took at the very beginning of the pandemic.
We'll start with this one. Karen took this image in March of 2020 when on assignment for the LA Times. If you recall, one of the first places that the virus spread was in Seattle at an assisted living facility. This is an image of a couple who had just visited their friends at that facility and due to the outbreak were forced to self-quarantine. Because the photograph was taken after sundown, Karen decided to light it on her own so that the couple would not be lost in the reflection of the window. She left 2 lights with remote-controlled triggers outside of the house for the couple to bring in. The couple did all the lighting work themselves, adjusting the brightness as well as the direction, while Karen focused on getting her exposure right.
The second image we wanted to share with you is one that Karen shot while on assignment for Reuters at the Life Care Center of Kirkland, the assisted living facility that was dealing with the first major U.S. COVID outbreak that we referenced before. The image depicts a family visiting their grandfather through a glass window. We think this image is quite effective in conveying the isolation that we've endured for over a year now, as well as the lengths to which families have gone in order to see their loved ones.
The final image we wanted to share with you today is one with quite a powerful backstory. When Maya and I first saw this picture, we knew that we recognized it and the story. Karen took this photograph while on assignment with the LA Times. She was given the task in the middle of March after a choir practice gathering caused what many consider to be the first COVID super-spreading event in the U.S. Of the 60 choir members who attended the meeting, 45 got COVID and 2 of them died. The LA Times got in touch with a couple who'd gotten COVID from the practice, and they agreed to speak with reporters. This was the photograph that Karen captured of them while she was there.
Now that we have gotten to know Karen and her work with vulnerable populations a little bit, we wanted to make some connections between what we learned while speaking with her and our history of photography class. While we fully recognize that Karen herself is not a member of the diverse perspective that she photographed, we still believe that we learned quite a lot about the processes and ethics of photography and photojournalism from and with her.
When we look into photo history and consider topics we've discussed within our class, Karen Ducey's work most relates to the lecture on photojournalism, as well as the ongoing conversation we've had throughout the semester about the power dynamics between the photographer and the photographed.
We were very lucky that Karen was so willing to delve into this topic during our conversation. I think that when Sadie and I asked Karen how she approached photographing vulnerable populations, we figured that she would have special guidelines and rules for photographing an elderly couple dealing with the loss of friends due to COVID-19 that would be different from rules and guidelines that she might try to follow when she's photographing a casual event. It turns out that our assumption was totally incorrect, though. Both Sadie and I were very touched to hear how Karen treats all of her subjects, and this is what she said.
When shooting vulnerable populations, I think of everyone as being vulnerable, really. Photographing people is essentially someone allowing you access into their world. At the same time, Karen pushed back against the idea that she should treat elderly people, for example, any differently due to their age. Older people are often portrayed as vulnerable, but frankly, to get to their age, you have to be mentally and physically strong. Photographing them in a way that is dignified is important.
As we were reflecting on how Karen's work related to other photojournalists that we discussed in class, we couldn't help but notice an obvious contrast in the way that Karen views the purpose of photojournalism compared to photographers like Roger Fenton, who famously likely staged his image The Valley of the Shadow of Death. In doing so, Fenton favored taking a dramatic image over taking a truthful one. Karen Ducey never compromises on the truth. Her goal as a photojournalist is to capture a true-to-life interpretation of what she is seeing.
Karen most definitely follows the Susan Sontag way of thinking. In Sontag's essay On Photograph, she reminds us of the medium's greatest quality. A photograph passes for incontrovertible proof that a given thing happened. That's why, in Karen's work, she prioritizes taking pictures that accurately represent the moment they're taken in, so that history can look at the images and make sense of the past as it genuinely took place.
Another element of Karen's photography that she takes very seriously is getting the full consent of whoever she is photographing. It is important to her that people know where their own image might end up. She's careful, though, not to then sell the image to stock news or photo agencies or any other publication that the person didn't agree to be in.
In class, Maya and I were both quite impacted by the story of Steve McCurry's famous photograph, Afghan Girl. We were disturbed by McCurry's lack of concern with getting consent from the girl, and we were even more concerned when it became clear to us how much it tormented her when she grew up and realized the photo's reach. Karen Ducey understands that every photograph has the potential to change a person's life, for the better or for the worse. And while so much of where a photo ends up is outside of the subject's control, whether or not they agree to be in the picture, period, is. Karen Ducey honors that agreement.
At the end of our interview with Karen, we asked her if she had any advice to offer budding photographers. We'll leave you with her answer.
Really try to get an understanding of people and where they come from and who they truly are.
And thank you very much for listening to our very much under the time limit presentation. Have a lovely day. Thanks, guys.